Hey, how's it going, everyone? Scartafist here. I'm back with another NBA game recap. This time, Bucks at Raptors played yesterday, February 25th. So I didn't want to do a recap right after the game because it would have kind of just been a little bit of a rant, and I want to kind of cut down on the length of the videos or the recaps in general because a lot of it's just kind of repetitive or just incoherent thoughts a lot of the time. But yeah, so when I look at this game, guys, I really had an idea of how it was going to go. I knew it was going to be competitive like everyone else, but I looked very carefully to see the injury report and who would be on for our team. Now, you keep in mind that the Bucks didn't have their full roster, neither did Toronto, but Toronto, there's two key people that weren't in this game, or even one of these two could have changed the outcome of this game, and that's either Norman Powell or Marc Gasol. When I didn't see either of them ready for this game, I was a little bit skeptical of the chances of the Raptors winning. I've been very critical of the two-guard lineup that's been run by Nick Nurse in the past, and I still stand by the fact that I don't think it's a good lineup. You're relying on two miniature under 6'1" point guards to run a defense, run the defense, or anchor that backcourt, and the viability of that is only supported by defensive intensity, which is constant pressure, as well as 3-point shooting. When one of these things start to fall off, oftentimes you're going to get exposed on that lineup, and it's going to make the other element that's really good with this lineup fall apart. So if your defensive intensity falls apart, you might not get enough 3-point shooting going, and you might start to lose rhythm. Same thing with 3-point shooting. When that starts to kind of go awry, or wary, your defensive intensity can tend to sag off. But yeah, that was my just general thoughts before going into this game. I still thought it definitely would have been close. And, that's hard to believe with what we saw on the score. But yeah, I have a couple of notes that I took down. Actually, I took down quite a bit, but I'm going to summarize what I saw. So the first quarter, Raptors got to put the hammer down. If you were going to win this game as Toronto, you really wanted to come out swinging, hit him in the mouth, and that's exactly what they did. That first half even, but that first quarter in particular, they didn't come out swinging. Both teams were missing shit. The defensive intensity was through the roof. They were, the lid was on both teams' baskets for a good 6 minutes or so before, a three-pointer by Lopez. Robin Lopez actually gets the first points. It's answered back by another three. And, for the first quarter, it really does feel like a playoff atmosphere game. And this extends all the way into the second quarter. Now, you got to keep in mind that the Bucks, they won an OT last night. This is their second game in 3 nights, or third game in 4 nights. Something absurd. The Raptors have had rest. The Bucks haven't, and they just played extra regulation against the Washington Wizards, which is why I keep saying they got to punch them in the mouth quickly. But, no one's really scoring at this point until 6 minutes. And then Nick Nurse decided to slot in a bench lineup to get some scoring going because, he's trying to mimic and see when Giannis is on and when he's not. Keep in mind, the Raptors didn't have that defensive wall fully intact. They didn't have Gasol, right? That's a key integral part to the offense and defense as well. Anyway, the bench gets things going, and towards the end of the first quarter, Toronto starts to build a lead through that bench. You got Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Matt Thomas, and Chris Boucher coming in, providing very, very solid minutes. In fact, overall, I thought they were very, very helpful this game, and they kind of made up for a lot of the issues that the starters had, which was mainly in scoring, right? Hollis-Jefferson really out there hustling, and the only other person I can think of, in comparison to Hollis-Jefferson's hustle would be Dante DiVincenzo on the Bucks team. He was very, very crucial down the stretch and just hammering that offensive glass, being aggressive, forcing fouls, and just killing any momentum the Raptors could get later on in the game. So yeah, Toronto, they opt for a zone defense. And when that first quarter, I noticed that Rondae Hollis-Jefferson would be the ball handler until up to the halfway court, and then Lowry and Van Vliet, which, they act as spot up shooters. And, for the earliest time, it was actually working because Toronto got hot from 3 in that first half. So we go for the second quarter. Defense continues to be a pressure for both teams. Boucher is actually putting up really good points here. Bucks have really good transition defense, and you'll notice a lot of the times with what the Raptors try to do is they just throw a fucking baseball pass or just a full court pass all the way to just get that offensive defense, transition offense, and just get a quick bucket against teams that don't have length or athleticism or aren't well coordinated. That usually works, about 80% of the time. The Bucks are bigger in a way. They're as big and as athletic as Toronto, right? So they're actually able to answer a lot of these, full court passes. it leads to a lot of silly turnovers. You don't want to. You got the Lopez brothers, for crying out loud, holding up 7 feet wall, 7-foot long walls. You got Giannis as well, who's gonna, hands up, he's gonna get the ball if you try to lob it. Right? Toronto doesn't even have anyone taller than 7 feet playing in this game, with the exception of Boucher. And yeah, it's not a good idea. But I see what Toronto was trying to do. They were really trying to push their advantage, and yeah. So Matt Thomas reminded me of JJ Redick. So yeah, Toronto's got their own version of JJ Redick. Up until he's playing very well. That bench was playing incredibly well. There was one point in the second quarter, though, where I thought that either team could have really, really hammered the lead and just basically kind of made things, swing momentum heavily in their favor. And that was when there was a series of double technicals that canceled them out. So Toronto, I think it was Lopez gets a technical for arguing after he gets somewhat tangled up trying to go for a rebound, and then Nick Nurse somehow gets a technical out of nowhere because he was just having a conversation. I don't know. I didn't see the feed, but they both get technicals that cancels out any momentum. Possession is back in the Bucks, right? Now, if Toronto gets those 5 points, because you got to keep in mind they had a free throw that they missed. Free throw shooting was very problematic tonight as well, or last night as well, right? But they make that free throw and they get they get Lowry to hit that free throw and they get the possession. Basically, it's a 5-point swing that could have been. That didn't happen, right? But yeah, the Bucks, on the other hand, because the possession was in their favor after the technicals canceled each other out, right? If they actually could make the 3-point jump shot, they'd be in a good spot to really push things forward. But neither team make it, and yeah, it's kind of just a stalemate. Something else I noticed this game was Pascal Siakam. Don't let the stats fool you in terms of numbers. He was not really good this game. He got shut down as the number 1 option by far. Because I know you can say that he mimicked what Middleton had, in terms of points and whatnot, and basically, percentages. But you have to keep in mind as well, Middleton was the second option. Giannis is the first option. He's just deferring to Middleton, who in turn is deferring to one of the Lopez brothers to shoot that 3 and get it in, right? Yeah, I would say Middleton and Siakam canceled each other out in the scoring regard, but yeah, that's about it. Siakam was really relied to, we went to Siakam for the first option, Toronto that is, and he kind of just did not put up, he wasn't good. He wasn't good at all. And, people are going to make an argument that Siakam has been very, very good against the Bucks. And you just look at the playoffs. And when you got to look at that in its totality. Who was the main, defensive, focus for the Bucks to stop? It wasn't Siakam. It was Kawhi Leonard. So Siakam is, able to, not have too much defensive pressure focused on him. So he's able to, get in there with a spin move, draw fouls, hit jumpers without feeling pressured. He is the first primary option right now. So what Milwaukee does to Toronto this game is what Toronto did to Giannis in the playoffs. And they did that to him this game too, but Giannis' supporting cast just managed to be better yesterday, right? They put up that wall, they took away his drive, and Siakam's jump shot is not his primary tool. Siakam is known for driving in the paint, going through the spin move, and every once in a while mixing it up with that jump shot to catch his his defensive assignment off guard. If all the defensive assignment has to worry about is the jump shot, shit, you let him take that because you're just gonna wall off the paint with the Lopez brothers and Giannis or some sort of combination of that, right? It's just not gonna happen right there. So yeah, Siakam relied upon to be the first option, didn't really happen. I would have liked to seen a little bit more of OG Anunoby, but he was also definitely stifled this game as well. You were really relying on these two because Serge Ibaka this game was awful. Normally, you would have some sort of paint pressure with Serge Ibaka. He'd be in there getting rebounds, putbacks, being a threat with that mid-range, that pick and pop game with Lowry. He was non-existent this game. 2 of 15, very, very atrocious. And I thought one of the critical errors that Nick Nurse made, and I'll go more into detail with this come in the third and fourth quarter, because I just thought that was where things really started to fall apart, as you can see by score. But I thought that Serge Ibaka this game, he had to have been at least mediocre. He really had a bad game. This was not this. Coming in, he was shooting 40% from 3. He shot, He shot 2 of, his 3-point percentage, actually no, 1 of 10. He shot 1 of 10 from 3. It looks like you had Serge Ibaka, as the primary option if you look at how many shots were taken, and he just did not deliver today. I think the game plan was to open or make people, open up the paint a little more for Siakam if Serge Ibaka would have been a perimeter threat. He obviously wasn't, so the Raptors were really forced to go for these kind of Hail Mary aggressive drives that usually didn't work. And if they did, they usually didn't make the free throws, right? It was like something 60-70% free throw completion, last game. And it was just a mess. The Raptors were forced to play on the perimeter while the Bucks had their way both ways, right? But yeah, back to the second quarter in terms of what else I noticed. There were 3 consecutive air balls by the Bucks. They're 5 from 21 at one point from 3, and Toronto actually gets an 11-point lead, and all that goes to complete shit with the last 2 minutes. They lose that lead. It's basically 50-52 going into the half, and that's where I started worrying a little bit for Toronto at that point. There was also a bullshit foul call on Lopez. The refs really hated Lopez this game, especially in that first half. They definitely did not. They were not fucking with Lopez. They definitely didn't like Lowry. Lowry definitely got fucked up. To be fair, he had a couple of fucked up plays, but yeah, the refs really did not like Lopez and Lowry this game. Lopez more so in the first half, Lowry in the second half. But yeah, 11-1 run by the Bucks to close out the half. It's a 50-52 advantage to the Raptors, and at this point, Boucher is leading the Raptors in scoring. This is not really good because as much as you like Chris Boucher and as much as you think he's good and whatnot, you've got to realize that your starters here are the ones you're supposedly relying on. If your bench is going to be the one that's scoring most of the points, you got to mix shit up now because the bench is used to playing against other benches, not starters, right? So if you basically want to get the rest of the team going, and that never really happened for the rest of the game. You go to the third quarter, and this is where things really start to fall apart. Lopez ties it 52-52, and then Ibaka continues to shoot terribly. They go on a 16-1 run before OG stops it with like a basket, right? It's a 16-1 run before OG stops it. And at this point, I'm thinking, we're halfway done with the third quarter. I'm saying to myself, you just gotta ride the bench. Rondé's the only one that's been able to actually challenge any sort of rebound, right? Whether it be slightly poking it and forcing the Bucks to maybe use an extra second to secure the rebound, or just trying his best to hustle. It's just a complete disaster from the starters. They did not, they were outplayed today. They were outplayed, or yesterday, I should say. I'm thinking, just take off Ibaka, put in Boucher at the very least. Your 3-point shooting is off. Okay, take out Van Vliet, right, because you need Lowry for the offense to function. Even take out Lowry, put in Matt Thomas, force them to open up the paint to the point where, you have Boucher going in for dunks. You saw on the highlight reel, Boucher went for a nasty putback in the first half over Giannis' 2 defenders. This guy was ready to fucking play. Matt Thomas, he hit most of his points. In fact, all of his 3 threes in that first half. You want to go with that bench lineup because at this point, that Ibaka is like, what? 2 of 10 at this point? It's really fucking bad. And a lot of these shots they're good shots. He's getting good looks. It's just not going in, right? And he's also being extremely careless with the turnovers. A lot of that has to do with the passing, but he's letting the ball get picked out of his hands. Same thing with Siakam. Now, if I remember correctly, there were 3 possessions back and forth after the Bucks started getting a lead that the Raptors deferred to Siakam to try to get a point. Couldn't get it each time. It was either a turnover, missed shot, or just heavily contested paint presence. So yeah, things weren't looking good after that. There wasn't really a second win that came with the starters. It kind of just went further downhill in that regard. I mean, you had that weird fucking foul that Lowry tried to go, underneath the legs of George Hill. That was something I just did. Yeah. Yeah. And that would happen later on too, but that foul kind of let you know that they just did not have today, the starters, that is. Keep in mind, Giannis is resting for the final 6 minutes. Nurse also fails his challenge. Toronto's running out of gas. Giannis is sitting with 6 minutes left. That fourth quarter is going to be brutal, right? Just outscored 34-19. I think it's probably done at this point. Obviously, I want to see what's left in the game to see if they can actually bounce back. Right, Marvin Williams, great addition for the Bucks. Bucks were playing really well at this point as well. Give credit to them. That defensive pressure forced them onto the perimeter, and they just couldn't make the shots tonight. And they could not drive because their only threat on the inside, being Ibaka, was neutralized. Right, Siakam, they took away his driving lane, his spin move lane. He's nullified as well. He'd get some points, but you know what I mean, guys. As a primary option, you got to get one. All right, so we go to the fourth quarter. That's when Nick Nurse, like I was saying, he slots in that bench lineup that I was talking about earlier. They start to go on a run, and they're actually able to attack the paint. But Giannis gets into the game, and that opportunity kind of dwindles. I thought that the bench should have been put in the moment Giannis goes to sit, because that paint opens up. You do have some three-point shooting that has proven to be effective, right? I know Matt Thomas's problem is he gets lost on switches, but you gotta fucking score. You can't let this lead balloon massively. Now, if you're the Bucks, you want to keep hammering this home. Force them to try to use all these weird defensive rotations. Force them, continue to force them to go to the perimeter. Keep the formula up, right? And to their credit, they do exactly that. But yeah. Giannis, I think there was an interesting play in the fourth as well. Giannis kind of went for a travel, but he still gets blocked by Boucher. Someone on Reddit told me, like, why you're overreacting to Ibaka's performance tonight. And I'm like, I'm talking about his performance tonight. I'm not talking about his performance in general. I think Boucher, at the point of 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, would have been more deserving of minutes than Ibaka. In fact, I think Boucher should have played all of it, like over half of Ibaka's minutes tonight. Ibaka played 30, slice that in half, give that other 15 to Boucher. I'm pretty sure if you give it to Boucher, you would have had a closer score. I don't think you would have won. I think you had a closer score, right? Or split that amongst the other bench pieces, right? I told you guys in the in the playoffs of 2018 to 2019, that two guard lineup's biggest problem, especially when you're missing Norman Powell and Marc Gasol, is you are so dependent on your shooting and being able to rattle the opposing team's offense, because you're just all up in their face and the refs aren't calling every ticky-tack foul or hack, right? Simply like that. When you meet a team that can answer that, this two-guard lineup is not good, right? But yeah, Donte DiVincenzo for the fourth quarter, very, very clutch. You did start to see some, because, Nurse is sticking to the bench finally in the fourth, right? For the most part, you did start to see some comeback potential. They get it to within 10. They get it to within single digits, and then Nick Nurse gambles super hard. I have it right here. He puts Ibaka back in with a little over 6 minutes to go, 5-6 minutes to go. Then Ibaka immediately becomes 2 of 13. He shoots another jump shot, misses. 5:22 left. I'm thinking the starters better step up, right? Because they even tried the full court press this quarter. It worked. It actually worked once. The Bucks were able to break out of it because they studied it. Obviously, the Bucks came prepared to this game. They weren't doing their wrestling routine, WWE, whatever you call it. They were ready, right? They were ready for that. Yeah, Nick Nurse messed up at the end of the day. There's so many other things I could go into, but just bottom line, I think Nick Nurse messed up today, or yesterday. 6 minutes left in the quarter. You're generating momentum. You're having success penetrating. Fred VanVleet manages to hit get a 4-point play going. They do a full court press as well, and then he immediately throws away that full court press immediately, because they get the possession again, right? And Lowry is wide open on the side, and VanVleet decides to take a long three, and it's just that pretty much killed any last sliver of momentum that was slipping away. It's just it wasn't good. The Bucks, Middleton played well. I think Middleton, Lopez, and DiVincenzo and Williams, right? These are the 4 players. They did they used Marvin Williams as kind of like a slot in every once in a while. He played very well. I thought he had some big momentum shots that he made. But yeah, Donte DiVincenzo, very good on that offensive glass. Very, very fucking good. And Middleton, he's just hitting his shots. So yeah, that's all I got for you in this game. Lopez has 5 blocks as well. I just truly think that if you were going to gamble, this was a gamble that did not pay off. Your full court press has been, it got broken. Yeah. Not good. That gamble, 2 of 13 he ends the game 2 of 15. No, you should have put in Boucher, sub out this 2-3 guard. Terrence Davis is 6'4" for crying out loud. You can't have a lineup against Milwaukee that has 2 7-footers, right? Or 6'11" plus. 3 of those guys 6'11" plus. You can't have a lineup that averages a height of 6'4" against that. It's not going to work. You're going to rely on 3-point shooting, and 3-point shooting fucking went to shit. But yeah, guys. Also, quick note: Old Spice fucking sucks. I was watching the TNT stream earlier. Do not buy Old Spice. It's trash. Don't buy it. Don't listen to the advertisement. Not that you do, but just my 2 cents. I saw that. I got triggered. I'm like, fuck Old Spice. All right, guys. That's all I got for you for this recap. It ended up being a little bit more jumbled, but yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.